Hello and welcome. Today we've got Brother Thomas, the founder of the People's Court in Southern Africa. And today we are going to be discussing the revolution in Africa. Now, just before we begin, you can subscribe to our Telegram channels and to nicholasveniamin.com for my free email updates. And if you're watching this for the first time on YouTube, I will leave the link below in the description for the full interview, unless, of course, myself and Brother Thomas can choose our words wisely due to the insane censorship that's happening right now. Brother Thomas, thank you for joining me. How are you and what have you been up to?
I'm just starting a peaceful revolution. Everything's quite peaceful here in Southern Africa. Of course, we're facing the same challenges that other countries are facing, but our story is a little bit different. So I would like to share that with you along the way tonight.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. If I can just sit back and listen to you, and you can give us a short presentation about everything that's been going on, and then while I'm doing that, I'll be taking notes down, and we can go with some questions and answers after that. How does that sound?
Great, thank you. Excellent. So, history repeats itself. Our story is quite similar in terms of legislation that was passed, the act over the last 100 years. But in the 1950s, the people started rejecting the oppressive apartheid regime that was prevalent in those times. And then in 1955, the people made their declaration, their manifesto, which was called the Freedom Charter, the 1955 Freedom Charter. And there was a 10-point plan, and the vision of that document was the people shall govern. Then we had in the 1980s, we had over 400 non-political coalitions that got together under the banner of the United Democratic Front. And this was basically the agency that brought about the change in South Africa leading up to 1994-95. And the vision of the Freedom Charter was then laid out. This was the rollout plan for the People's Government, which was called the Reconstruction and Development Program Policy Framework. And both of these documents stated people shall govern. The RDP mandated developing the common law and the customary law, community courts, scrapping the divided bar, for the people to establish oversight committees to oversee the changes that were meant to take place within institutions such as our Reserve Bank, our National Treasury, and so forth. Unfortunately, there was a cabal within the UDF that sold us down the river. And Ronnie Casrels, our ex-intelligence minister, he wrote a book called Armed and Dangerous. He described how the Oppenheimers and others were in secret meetings where they basically told the ANC, look, you can have your black government, but corporations here are going to continue trading as they are. It's going to be business as usual for the globalists. So instead of a lawful republic since 1995, a corporation was registered, namely Republic of South Africa Incorporated, registered with the US Securities and Exchange Commission. And in 1995, there was an agreement made between the US Securities and Exchange and our Financial Services Board. And so the managers of this corporate public, if you want to call it, while a corporation fronting as a lawful government, was administrated by the banks. First National Bank is actually the manager, the key manager for Republic of South Africa, and the governing law is New York. So all these corporations have been consolidated and registered in Delaware, which a lot of people are aware of. And same happened to America. United States of America is also a corporation. In fact, these are corporate services providers, and they have 19 enumerated services that they're supposed to provide us. But instead, they use this as a process to bankrupt all the nations under reorganization bankruptcy, which comes all the way back from 1933 with the Bretton Woods Agreement, when 16 nations went bankrupt. Since then, we've been operating under what's called revolving bankruptcy laws. And this has now all been reorganized into the United Nations. So it shouldn't be called the United Nations, it should be the United Corporations. Because since the United Nations was established, the key shareholders are the usual suspects, the Rothschilds, Cooney Lubes, Chase Manhattans, and so forth. And now, and in this manner, in this reorganization, this is how they also been able to roll out these vaccine protocols and so forth. So it's all very much part and parcel of the problem that we face. Einstein said that we can't use the same methods to try and solve the problem that we are faced with. That's basically insanity. So the corporate system, they are not courts. What we think of as courts are not courts at all. They are, in fact, called executive administrative tribunals, and there's no judges. They are executive administrators, and it's all corporate. And it's only relates to contracts between corporate legal fiction. There's a Supreme Court ruling from 1795 in the annotation. It says, inasmuch as every government is a legal fiction, an abstraction, and a creature of the mind only, having no parity with the tangible, the legal manifestation of this is that no court, government, agency, aspect law can concern itself with anything other than contracts between corporate legal fiction. So they don't have any jurisdiction over reality. They don't have jurisdiction over people. They don't have jurisdiction over your rights. They don't have jurisdiction over your land, your resources, or anything tangible. So that jurisdiction is in fact vacant. Mm-hmm. And this is where the common law courts have come in through millions of hours of research by all of our pioneers, people like G. Edward Griffin, Elizabeth Mary Croft, Frank Collins, Anna von Reitz, all the great minds came to a point where we've now distilled what we need to do in order to unbind this evil system and bind in a new alternative. We can't fight this existing system. We have to create an alternative. And in fact, people's courts, because we are operating in reality, we are superior jurisdiction courts to the bar legal system, because they only have jurisdiction over fiction. We have jurisdiction over reality. Our Creator created us, and we created a fiction called government. The sole purpose of government is to protect our rights. Now, this piece of paper has turned everything upside down, and it claims it's standing between us and our Creator. That is simply not possible. Fact trumps fiction, And this is the dilemma we're sitting in just now. Now, on another level, we are not only dealing with a physical issue, we're also dealing with a very evil, unseen system. So if you take the language that they're using, the legalese, the dog Latin, all of this jargon, it is actually word magic. It is occult. It comes from, all this Zoroastrian worship from the past of archons and demons and all of that. So it is spellbinding. So there's a Harry Potter element to this whole story too, is that we are actually unbinding all of this evil is established principles in law that state in the same manner that something is bound, is unbound. So we have to unbind this evil system, bind in a new, just, free, and fair system by, for, and of the people. Now, our legal system and the banking system, they lie at the root of this very evil system that we are faced with. Once we can put the power of lawmaking back into the hands of people through the jury courts, the people's courts, and we can put the power of banking back into the hands of the people, and we win. So we are going further than establishing our courts. We are holding a referendum, the South African People's National Referendum, when we have 500,000 names in our referendum, and it's a declaration where we basically emancipating ourselves from this corporate RSA Incorporated. And then, of course, at that point, we're going to start foreclosure proceedings because it is bankrupt and it's time to rehabilitate this bankruptcy. We're creating a national trust. We're going to revenue all of the assets in there. Then we're also developing an alternative banking system. So we've got our first committees are meeting on a weekly basis. We're going to tackle all aspects of society. So education, we need to start deciding what alternative models of education are we going to use. Our banking system, it's going to be completely separate, running on its own servers and all of that. Then at some point we will interface with the American states who are also setting up their own banking system. There's two names. The one is the Global Family Bank. The other one is the Bilateral Trade Bank. So just to explain, these corporations, they operate under international commerce, which is sea jurisdiction. We are operating under international trade, which is land jurisdiction. And vehicles that we use are express trusts, as opposed to companies and corporations. This is how we were supposed to originally trade. I mean, a republic is supposed to be a trust, which the people are the beneficiaries and the shareholders of that trust. Creditor. But through semantic deceit and the color of law, we get converted by the system from living creditors to deceased estates and debtors.
Mm-hmm.
And then we are also getting forced to pay our debts in a method that doesn't discharge, because there's different kinds of money. The entire system is running under what's called the law merchant, the Uniform Commercial Code, and the way to settle debts under that system is to set them off, to discharge them through endorsing them. But now the system gets you to pay out of your own pockets, and these debts have already been discharged. So there's mass-scale commercial paper fraud going on.
Okay.
And it's very simple to see that. You can just go and look at all the documentation that's out there, look for the original document. If you're getting an invoice or a statement from a utilities company, the original, you won't see it. You get copies. Same with your taxes. Your birth certificate, the original has been sold. Your mortgage papers, any piece of commercial paper that you have signed, if you try and go back and find the original, it's gone. Why? Because it's getting sold through backdoor clearinghouses for up to 10 times its value in this fractional reserve system. Now, even the courts are doing this. You can go and look for court orders, and you'll see the original court orders are missing from the files within 24 hours. We've done this many times. And because they are not applying the Uniform Commercial Code and the Bills of Exchange Act properly, we are being double billed. Sometimes we're paying up to 20 times for the same service. And it's a debt-based system. And the interest on this fake debt is just growing. And of course, bubble bursts often, and then they just reorganize everything and they carry on as usual. And we are, in fact, way past the point of where it needs to be foreclosed. We need a global debt jubilee. We need to put a moratorium on all evictions, foreclosures, repossessions, because it's all based on fraud. The entire banking system is a fraud. Stock markets, everything. It's all artificially manipulated. There's nothing natural to it anymore. No, the old law of nations has been corrupted. The original principles, charters, the League of Nations has been corrupted. It's all been corrupted, and this is all due to this organized criminal gang that's of banksters that control the whole Federal Reserve Ponzi scheme, and now they're controlling the world through a fiction called money.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of it in a nutshell, you know.
Okay. So let's talk about what you're doing and who's involved into creating a new banking system, and also talk about the currencies. How will you use the gold or a tangible asset that's going to be backed up by the currency that you're looking to create?
Yes. Well, look, there's it was Milton Friedman who said that money, the creation of money, you don't need formal education. It's a creative process. You know? So first of all, we're drawing from all of our coalitions. So as these unity movements and coalitions are forming in South Africa, we already have quite a few of them on board, and hopefully more of these South African coalitions will join us. We're talking about churches, kingdoms, you know, tribal kingdoms. We're talking about communities engaged in savings and credit co-ops, barter and exchange systems. It's all non-political. We don't work with political parties. We have people on board that are members of political parties, but in our meetings and that, we don't recognize that status. We are all just people. We don't regard fictions or frictions of law. And from that, we have quite a few experts in, writing software and so forth. So our first projects that we are tackling is, the first thing is we now going through the process of making a Liberty sovereign silver coin, which will be 1 troy ounce for starters. And then there's quite a nice idea. It's called the gold back. It's an American chap. It's literally real money because it's a thin sheet of gold or silver that's laminated between two polymers, and the money is worth the current value of the gold. So And because you can print it so thinly, you can print up to 1,000th of a troy ounce. I think the current gold back is about $3.80. So it's being used in certain shops and so on already. So it'll be a basket of currencies. There's a lot of alternative systems out there already. There's local economy trading systems. There's community exchange system. There's numerous alternatives models that are already working, and have been working for a number of years.
And how will you work with creating accounts, which is decentralized to the holder of their own monetary?
Yes, we'll have our own system. We'll have our own exchange. We will record the monies, everything that we're trading. So, for example, if you're going to be trading in a silverback, you'll be able to go online and see the certificates, see what quality of silver you have there, what it's worth, and so forth, so that it's all open and transparent,
So when we hopefully, we can all countries and around the world can create a new banking system, a real one, of course, not the one we're in now. What would happen to our current debts today with our mortgages, which you say, and I agree, and many agree, that are currently illegal? Would they be just written off?
Well, you see, this is the whole thing, is that under the current UCC, Uniform Commercial Code, the only way to settle any of these debts is to discharge it. So we're going to say to the World Bank, the IMF, give us the bill, because we want to discharge it against our credit. Now, if you look at South Africa, so just to give you an idea, the whole, why we say the Federal Reserve System is a Ponzi scheme, what they colluded to do was, for us, they created a fake, they basically artificially created the depression. So they scared governments to get all of their gold together into one vault and then to use it as collateral to try and rehabilitate the so-called fake bankruptcy. And then, of course, the banksters, it was, sleight of hand. So they confiscated our gold. They gave us a non-permanent banking system, which is debt-based. Those formulas that we could never pay those debts back. And because the money is created, this commercial paper that's created is created under the Bills of Exchange Act. It's called money of exchange. Now, our money of account is a completely different kind of money. You can't use money of account. It doesn't settle the debt of money of exchange. They keep getting us to pay from money of account, but it never settles the debts, and these debts just grow and grow and grow. And right now, every single cent of tax is just going towards trying to settle the interest on this debt. I mean, in 1989, Ronald Reagan brought out the Grace Commission report, and in there it clearly states not a single cent of Americans' taxpayer money is going towards any services. It's all going towards this fake debt.
Wow. Yeah.
All IOUs, it's fiat.
What do you think caused this big revolution that's going on right now? Do you think it's the crisis of 2020?
Well, it's always a crisis of survival that rallies people to take action. Unfortunately, So this has been what we would call a crisis of survival.
Mhm.
And it's been a mass awakening. We started on this journey 10 years ago already. There was very few of us in the beginning, but now we are the majority. More than 70% of South Africans are awake. 70% of South Africans didn't take the jab. We didn't vote. So we're ready for an alternative system. Luckily, we already had the foundations for an alternative system. We just need to restore the reconstruction and development of South Africa as it was meant to be since 1994. I feel, sorry for when the cabal is seated in Britain, France, America. So I feel very sorry for you guys. It's going to be very easy for us to take back our government, to restore our republic. But you guys are going to have it quite a bit harder.
Well, I think that, someone like yourself, your country will start it off and it will be a domino effect. It will be an example. And, it's a really good thing. So let's talk about passports and birth certificates. What are you doing for that? Because obviously you did mention that our birth certificates were sold. And there's this thing about our names being in capitals, which means that we are a corporation, which means that we are subject to statutes which are unconstitutional. They are not our God-given laws, like killing or stealing or damage. They have statutes which basically bury us in regulations, that make them in law. So what are you going to do about that? What's the setup for that?
Well, it's, we 4 times before, we have put our constitutional court justices themselves on trial, on Constitutional Hill. We notified the protectors of the Hill that we're not protesting, we're not marching or anything. We are holding a lawful common law hearing, and we're putting them on trial for protecting the corporations to exploit the people, which is completely contrary to the whole intention of the Constitution. And we did 4 dry runs successfully. On the 4th one, they told us that we need to come with our justices. So we are now putting together the Southern African Tribunal for Natural Justice. These will be made up of wise elders from our traditional kingdoms, and it will be representative of our nations that we have here. So we're basically going to put our constitutional court justices on trial for the last time, and they are going to stamp all of our orders, which will put the police and the military under our power of the people's courts, our oversight committees, to start initiating the change with our oversight committees. We already had this. It's there. We just need to activate it. So our process is a lot simpler than most of the other countries.
Why do you think that your process is much more easier? What are the advantages that your country has that makes it easier?
We had a revolution. We overthrew the previous government. So that paved a highway of freedom for us. And this is why, in our own constitution, which we don't recognize because it's corporate, but in there is the Bill of Rights. And, for example, we have the right to bodily integrity in section 12.2C of the Bill of Rights, and it's a non-derogable right. So no legislation or regulation in South Africa can force us to take vaccinations. So that's why it's not mandatory. And they're trying everything to now slip it in somewhere to try and make it mandatory. But we're just telling them, sorry, your regulations, your statutes or acts or emergency codes are null and void because they contrary to the Bill of Rights. So they are unlawful, illegal, and null and void. So they have no standing.
Mm-hmm.
So we educate our police, our military, and we've got a very active citizenry that we have served them all.
Mm-hmm.
We have served them all.
Do you believe that there is an alliance working to slowly, make this happen worldwide, although it might be very slow, and also letting people, work for it, like people waking up and doing the inner work to figure it out themselves? Do you think there is an alliance happening behind the scenes, helping to shift?
From the people's side or on the other side?
Sorry?
Are we talking about the New World Order Alliance or the People's Alliance?
I'm talking about the light side, the good side, trying to, get humanity to wake up slowly and create a new system. Do you think
ET sticks strictly to 3D ality, but ality, not reality, ality. So I can't say. All I can say is that, the old adage is, as above, so below.
Mm-hmm.
So corruption that we see here in this 3D reality is the same corruption that you will find on every other single plane of existence.
Mm-hmm.
And how it has all come about is because we have gotten slack in our morals and our ethics and our principles. We are responsible for it.
Absolutely.
Now that humanity are waking up, they're all very much angered and so forth, and looking around at who they can blame, instead of taking responsibility and say, you know what, I created this. I was complicit in this. I allowed this to happen. Instead of me learning what my Bill of Rights is or what my rights really are, I spend Saturdays watching the Super Bowl or the soccer or, Netflix. I keep asking people, who's read the Bill of Rights? And then there's maybe one. The Freedom Charter, maybe one. And this is why we are where we are. The law does not protect those that slumber on their rights. So we can't now want to go out and arrest people and do this and do all of that. It's time for us to wake up, smell the roses, and take part. We have to be the change we want to see in the world. We have to take action, responsibility.
Absolutely. We are slowly seeing different industries, people of different industries now. They're starting to see the light. They're starting to see the inconsistencies. They are losing trust, and the authorities are losing credibility, and they are slowly shifting and making that change. And yes, you are right. We have to make that, take that responsibility and have that courage and no longer continue with the slack to make a difference.
Yes. So every single country, the people from every single country should get involved with the common law courts. There are common law courts starting up in virtually every country: England, New Zealand, Australia, America, South Africa, and the customary law courts. The traditional people must go and develop the customary law courts, support those processes. Especially with the treaty nations, they have a lot of power, those treaties, and keeping their jurisdiction. There's nations like the Maoris from Aotearoa. We've worked with the spiritual chief, who's now passed away. And they have maintained their sovereignty. The Maori people have maintained their sovereignty. They're one of the few nations who've managed to achieve that. And this is everything begins and ends with the law. And that's how it's all going to unfold. Is establish your courts, your common law, your customary law, your procedures of how you're going to roll out, and then the whole system of governance will follow from that. But if you're going to just keep protesting, protesting is for slaves. These freedom convoys, yes, it's great, but it doesn't take care of the paperwork.
Absolutely, yeah. You're saying that we have to get involved with the actual laws themselves and reclaim back that power. Absolutely. Well, Brother Thomas, it's been an absolute honor to have you. Thank you so much for sharing that with what's happening in Africa. And hopefully we could, use that as an example for every other nation to follow. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish?
Well, as our Freedom Charter said and our RDP said, people shall govern and we shall govern.
Okay.
So, if you want to govern, then you need to take action. To manifest something, desire needs to be coupled with action. And the first action is the words, the documents, the writing, the law. And from there, everything else will flow. So we'd like to, all the people in the world, each country will have to reclaim their republic back. And yes, hopefully we can help and assist each other along the way. Thank you for a wonderful show.
Thank you very much. And I wish you all the best. And it'll be nice to keep updated with the progress. And thank you. And God bless you. We'll speak very soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.